Good morning, it's Shanna. This week we are going to take a look back at my February wrap up. I almost didn't do this video because I didn't do that much. The practice that I'm sort of engaged in right now has sort of taken up a lot of my time, but it's just a singular practice and I'm not entirely sure that I'm ready yet to share that on here, so we'll see. I only brought in a couple of decks. I have one coming, but it's not yet arrived, so technically it'll probably be a part of my March wrap up. So yeah, let's just get right into it. I think the first deck, and I say I think because it's possible I brought this in January, but it's not on my January list and it's not on my February list. So I'm guessing that it's my February, that I brought it in this month. So it's the Remembering I Am Light deck by Patricia Murray, or Trisha Murray, I think is what she goes by on Etsy. She's the creator of the Precious Twigs Oracle and the Remembering the Sweet Fool Tarot. This, I believe, is, well, I don't know that it's intended to go with, but it goes together beautifully with Remembering the Sweet Fool. So I'll just show a few as I flip through the Oracle. I love this kind of deck. I love the photography of it. I like the concept of, I just like her art style, her eye for photography, and I am very much into photography decks in general right now. I'm enjoying the keywords of these. I just like the way I can sort of sink into the image without it being, like it's almost, like it's a clear image, but you also get all this sort of like out of focus area where you can sort of just sink into the image and really allow your intuition to shine. So I think this goes beautifully with a lot of different things. I'm not showing the tarot with it very well. The backs of this deck is where the message is, and they're all in spiral. So I won't go through all the messages just because that would take forever, and this is not a walkthrough of this deck, but I don't think there is a but, period. How about that? I think it's beautiful, and I think it would go together very well with the Mag's Black decks, the tree ones. I can never remember. I know the one is called Secret Garden. One is called like the Dreamscape or Dream Garden. I don't know. I'll put the names on the screen, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I think these go together very well. I haven't used them together just yet, but I think it's something that I could definitely get behind. So I'm loving this one. Did I flip through these already? The top, yes. All right, so speaking of photography decks, now bear with me here, okay? I talked about the tarot deck, Tarot Obscura, in one of my, in that collection. It was like on having a tarot collection. I talked about that deck and how I was curious about it, and if anyone, I don't even know if I mentioned it on there about trading or, you know, selling it or whatever, but a lovely viewer reached out and offered to make a trade for it. So I did. I traded her, and this came in the mail, although I will say we were both quite shocked because this deck took forever to get to me. It went from her city to Colorado to Portland, back to Colorado, back to her city. 3 times, I want to say. It was 3 times. It took about 2 weeks to get here. She's in the US. She's like 3 states away from me. I mean, maybe not 3 states, but just a few states away. And anyway, she was beautiful about the whole situation. She dealt with the post office, made phone calls, you know, kept on them about it, and it did eventually arrive in perfect condition. So, you know, cheers to her and her dedication to getting this deck to me in one piece. So this deck is something. In case you're wondering, yes, this is an actual deck. This is how the creator made it. Here are the backs. Beautiful. And the edges are in black, matte black. Now, the reason I was curious about this deck in my head was because I thought, how do I want to do this? I thought maybe I thought I had a job for it. I'm going to zoom in a little. I thought I knew exactly what I could use this deck for, and I think in theory it would. Again, I'm not going to talk about it too much here. I'm not in the headspace to. It doesn't matter. I'm not being vague on purpose. We're just gonna keep going. It doesn't matter. I thought I had a job for it, and in the meantime of waiting for this deck, another deck came into my collection that immediately made itself known for that job. So my position has been filled. What is that? It's from Mary Poppins. The position has been filled. I don't know. Anyway. So when I got it, I was like, okay, now what? Now what am I going to use this deck for? In my head, I sort of thought this was a photography deck, but I did a little bit of digging, like a little bit, not very deep at all. And I think this is collage, and I think, please correct me below if I'm wrong. I don't know. So I'm not sure exactly her process, the creator's process, which is, by the way, Una in Space. So, as I said in the video, the collection video, I don't generally do spooky decks, and this feels a little spooky. This feels very, this has the same vibe to me with a little extra spook of that Dream Mountain. I think it's Dream Mountain, the one that was created in the 70s, and it was the very first photography tarot deck. This kind of reminds me of that. This also kind of reminds me of Somnia. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. When I opened it, I did not get an immediate yes or no necessarily, but I didn't get the sense of excitement that I usually do. Like, I didn't really necessarily even want to flip through it right then. So I haven't. I've gone through the cards, but I've kept it in order. And yeah, just like looking at their faces, I'm not sure what I'm going to use this deck for. Or if maybe I might rehome it and trade for something else that, captures my interest even more. I think this is beautiful. This also sort of reminds me of Tarot of the Unknown by, what is that place? I don't know. I think maybe it's just the gold overlay on the words that reminds me of that. But I don't know. I think my biggest issue is that in my head I was like, I'm going to get that deck and I'm going to use it for this thing. And because that thing had already been, like, as I said, the position had already been filled, it sort of left this void for this deck. I don't really have a place to slot it in. Zero regrets. I love having it. Sometimes I just really want to try a deck. I just want to look at it. I want to look through it. I want to see how it makes me feel. So, thrilled to have it and to at least, get a sense for it. But anyway, so that's that. Those are the only two decks I've brought in this month, which is, I want to say, a record for me for the past couple of years. I've definitely slowed down, not for, any particular reason other than I have just been using the decks I have with just a little more intention and enjoying them. So that's that. What's next? Okay, the books I've been reading. I know I mentioned at the beginning of January, or maybe it was even in December, that I would be reading this book each day, The Simple Abundance, a day book of comfort and joy. And essentially this is a book of daily essays type thing where, you go through and you read it each day, and sometimes she gives you a little exercise to do with it. Or sometimes it's just reading, just simple reading. And I, in my last video, or not last video, one of my last videos, I showed how I've been putting stickers in addition to flags throughout the book. And this one I haven't done a ton of stickers just because there's not a lot of white space in the book. But I've been doing a lot of flagging. I've been taking notes throughout, and it's been an enjoyable practice. I've really, really liked it. It's been a simple way to, what does she say? Journals for breakfast. Andrea, she says, create before consume. And I know this isn't technically like creating, but it's something to do with my mind that's analog, that's not, it's not my phone. Analog before consume, which does not have the same ring to it. But it's been good. And I like it's like a page, essentially just a page for everyone. Some it's a little less than a full page. Sometimes you'll take, see, I've been adding stickers here a little bit too. It's just fun. I like adding a little bit to it. And I imagine that this is one that I will come back to year after year, because I think each entry will hit a little bit different depending on what year I'm in and how old I am and, life experiences. So, and I've been underlining in pencil, not for any particular reason. I just didn't want it to feel too permanent necessarily. But yeah, the flags that I have are all pink, other than there's the one green that I use if there's something in there that I thought I could use as a tarot spread. So who was I at 10 that I need to reclaim? I loved that. Her question was, I remind myself that once upon a time I trusted my instincts. You did too. Once upon a time there wasn't a second and third guess. It can be that way again. So, she talks about going back to looking at who that 10-year-old person was. And I don't know, it's a fun practice. I will say, I mentioned before, the word God is brought up, not often, but it is brought up, which I thought would bother me, and I thought it would make this book a hard no. But it doesn't really bother me, mostly because it's sort of sprinkled in with the term spirit and guides, I think, if I remember right. So it's not, the book is not God-centered or religious themed, so it doesn't bother me. And it's been, I don't know, it's just been a lovely practice. And yeah, I got this book idea from Andrea at Journals for Breakfast. I've been getting a lot of great, creative ideas over there. So if you're curious, I definitely recommend checking out her channel. She's nice to watch and to listen to. So that's one of the books I'm reading. I'm still in the middle of my audiobook. I've been reading it for a while. I know the ending. You learn that you know the point of the book. I guess I don't have to be obscure about it. It's the first witch of Boston. So, obviously that she's hanged. And so I'm kind of struggling the last third of the book because I'm like, okay, I know where this is going, and I just, So I'm slogging through that last bit, but I will finish it. And then I'm also reading one. So I have my audiobook that I read like during my drive to and from work. I have my nightstand book, and then I have my Marseille study book, which Jay at Iridescent Tarot and Aaron over at the Witch of Saturn that we're reading. So we're getting through this, and I read this usually Tuesday evenings after work when I'm waiting to go into choir, because I've got about an hour and a half wait. So it's kind of the perfect time to read and absorb and highlight. But also, I've been reading, I'll put a picture on the screen because this is a snug fit cover. Actually, it's not. I lied. Forget, this one's a little bit bigger. So this is The Witch's Devil by Roger J. Horn. Thoroughly enjoying this book. This is a book suggested by Angel over at, why I can never remember her channel name, something 1212. I'll put that on the screen. And, I'd had it in my to be read list for quite some time, but when she posted about it and had said how good it was and that it had blown her mind, I immediately bought it. And I was like, wow, if Angel likes it, I will also like it. So same thing, I'm highlighting and just kind of in this earth tone, which I don't know if you watch Dawn Michelle's stuff. She has some amazing suggestions on how to annotate books, and she has some great resources. I'll put my favorite resource. It's one that she mentioned a couple years ago. I'll put that in the description box. If you've never annotated before, which I had not until I'd seen Dawn Michelle doing it, it's a great resource. So I'm using flags, as you can see, kind of, you know, an earth tone to kind of go with the title and vibe of the book. And then I'm also adding stickers as I go. It's just fun. It's sort of, it just makes it my own, and it makes it feel more scrapbooky. And then I'm also going through at the beginning of every chapter. I don't love my handwriting. I wish it was nicer and prettier, but it is what it is. So I'm putting in 3 questions that I can ask tarot as I go through. So, you know, if I go through it, and even if I don't do it this time through, if I come back to the book as a resource or just something that I want to revisit, those journals or tarot spreads will be there for me to use. And obviously, you know, you can do it over and over and over. And so, yeah, it's just at the beginning of every chapter. And I don't have a ton of flags in here, but there is, you know, this is another one that I feel like every time I revisit, there'll probably be something new that I can potentially highlight and flag at that point. So it's been great. He brought up some points that I hadn't thought of or didn't realize. His idea of the witch's devil as an archetype is separate from the Christian devil. It's separate from Lucifer or Satan. And just the way he explains it, which I couldn't even try to pretend to tell you how he explains it. I recommend the book. It's paperback, you know, relatively affordable, and I got it secondhand, I think on Abe Books probably. So I think I paid like $8 for it. So lovely read. I'm almost through it, and it's been thought-provoking in a way that has prompted the practice that I was talking about. So again, I'll get into it at some point, just probably not today. And that, as far as things I've brought in, is it. The other thing I did this month, my mom came to visit, and I'll insert a couple pictures here because I had a ton of fun with her going to antique stores, which is one of my favorite pastimes. And I found a beautiful, like painted, framed piece of art that I hung in my guest bedroom. And we went to another shop where they had a shop kitty, and we got to pet him. And I just, you know, I bought a little brass dragonfly. I should have brought it up here. I know we like show and tell, but I get lazy, so I'm not going to go get it. Just imagine in your mind, if you will, a little brass dragonfly. It's really cute. And yeah, there's been a lot of fun synchronicities as far as my practice goes with cards that I'm pulling. At one point, I will give you an example actually, because this was one of my favorite moments this month. So I asked the Seasons of the Witch, Imulk, who am I in this game of cat and mouse? You know, it's in relation to this practice that I'm doing. And again, I'm sorry for being obscure. It's not my intent, but anyway, that was the question I asked. And so shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. And I'll actually show you this one because it's cute. And it's just, you know, it just solidifies the reasons why I come back to the cards over and over and over again over these last few years, because every once in a while, not even every once in a while, all the time, just tarot and oracle in general, like it just works. It answers your question. Even if you don't understand it in the moment, 9 times out of 10, you're going to understand its intent at some point. So like I said, I asked, who am I in this game of cat and mouse? And this is the card that fell out. And I had to laugh because it was so funny. It says, you know the things you're capable of, but are you confident in leaning into that belief? And I just thought, fine, you know, like obviously that was answering my exact question. Like, you're clearly the mouse, but why? Why are you the mouse? Because you're not confident. You know, for me, my personal self, in that moment, I was not feeling confident. So it was funny, especially because I really appreciated this little clawed hand over the back of the book. And I was like, okay, I hear you, I see you, I understand you. And yeah, that was one of my favorite tarot/oracle moments this month. I just thought it was a lot of fun. And I'm excited to move on to the next deck, but I am thoroughly enjoying my Seasons of the Witch decks. I have had, I've been collecting them, as most of us have. And despite liking them, the concept, and, really liking the artwork, I just hadn't really found a way to use them in a way that felt, that didn't just fall flat, But during February, working with the Blood Moon Tarot, I have come to realize that for this practice that I am, super evading talking about, this is the deck that I'm using for that practice. And this series of Seasons of the Witch, these are bonded. All 8 of them belong to each other now. These Seasons of the Witch decks will likely not ever go with any other deck. It belongs to this deck and this deck alone. So I'm excited to pull out, what is the next one? Is it Obscura? I think it is. Obscura, and just see how it works with Blood Moon. And I just think every single one of them is going to speak beautifully. And like just putting them like this makes me feel good. So if you haven't tried them together, highly suggest. Love that. That's been a lovely practice and just a way for me to, be in the moment with my witchcraft and these things that I'm working through. So let's see. Okay. So my last little practice tidbit was that I'm feeling a little uncertain about this practice that I keep referring to. And I wasn't really sure how to proceed with it. So I sat with it for a while and I just kind of got really quiet. I came up here and I sat at my desk. I lit my candle here on my altar and I just was really quiet with it for a while. And I just thought, how am I going to do this thing that I really want to do, but also feel safe and make sure that I am protecting myself, my space, my energy in the way that needs to be protected, right? And then I was like, obviously, Shanna, why did this not come to you sooner? I needed to continue to work with my guide energy, my Filia from last year. I brought her in last year. I didn't even know that was a word until last year. And I enjoyed working with her, and I felt like I was working with her through that Wild and Sacred Feminine deck. Not that was her deck. I mean, that was kind of a separate thing, but it was the concept of the guide and the concept of, having my hand held, which was something I really felt I needed. And so the second I thought, just to work with the Filia through this practice this year, it got me excited. And I was like, oh, well, now I need a deck for her. I need a deck for my Filia. To which I was instantly annoyed with myself. I'm like, really? You need another deck to, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, no, look through your decks first, decide if there's anything there that can be used before you go running out, Googling the rabbit hole of another deck. So I did, and I settled on 2 decks that I wanted to interview, sort of to get a vibe check, right? So I pulled out Tarot Landscapes because I thought, this could be Filia energy. Like, there's no people in this, so that could potentially work. That's funny. Actually, that's very funny. Let's zoom in just a little bit. Okay, so hello. Okay, so Queen of Swords. Why am I saying that card threw me off? Refocusing. Flipped through it. While I love this deck, I use this deck for shadow work, which, P.S., I'm not very good at. I've not yet mastered the art of shadow work. But regardless, this was not my Filia deck. It's beautiful. I love it. It's not going anywhere, but it wasn't the deck for me for my Filia. So I was like, okay, that's not it. So I was like, well, what else do I have? So I kind of, I looked through each of my cupboards and I was like, oh, maybe I want to use my Little Monsters deck. I've not used this deck. I brought it in. I think it's sweet and cute and adorable, but I've literally never used it. I may have done a spread with it and posted it on Instagram, maybe. But I was like, what better deck than these, you know, these beings that aren't human to represent my Filia. If you don't know what Filia is, it is a Scandinavian, I want to say specifically Swedish, but I was talking to someone recently and they mentioned that it's also a Norwegian. So it's probably just a Scandinavian, like that area, a spirit guide, someone who's there to guide you, protect you, you know, someone there to consult with. And I thought, okay, so I pulled this deck out and I asked it, I said, if you were to pick an archetype, if you were to pick a card to represent who you are, what card would you pick? And it took a minute to shuffle. This deck is not an easy shuffle, but the card that fell out, the single card that fell out, was the Moon. And I immediately knew that she had chosen this card. I can't see her face, which I appreciate because I don't know what my Filia looks like. I just know that she's there. She's there to guide me and she's mine. She is for me, which I love. So I had to laugh because I felt like not only was she saying, here, this is me, but I also felt like because her back was turned and it looks to me like she's already walking down this path of this path that I want to be on, that I am currently on. She's like, let's go. Let's go. She's not even waiting for me. She's like, she's ready. She's willing. She's happy to do it. And so that's been out on my altar for several days. And so this is her deck. That's all it took. That one card. This is my Filia's deck. And it feels perfect. I don't think I could have picked a better one for her. So being able to communicate with her about this practice, you know, that I'm currently on, and consulting with her and being protected by her while, you know, all these other things are going on, just felt so very right. And yeah, that's my last sort of like news for February. So it's been a lot of really good, personal, deep stuff. Sorry I haven't like been super specific. I probably will be eventually, I'm just not quite there yet. But yeah, so that is my month of February. That's my whole wrap up. I have nothing else to report on. I would love to hear what you've been up to. If you don't have a channel, you know, a lot of us do these wrap ups, but if you don't have a channel and you want to share with me what you've been up to, I would love to hear about it. Feel free to share below, and I will catch up with you guys next time.